Now then, listeners, welcome along to episode 151 of the Super League Pod. Expect one voice, 1 hour, and one very long list of names and Twitter handles. Strap yourselves in. Hello and welcome to episode 151 of the Super League Pod. You're hearing my voice first today because you'll only be hearing my voice today, unfortunately. I'm not sure why, but we may find out in the future. I didn't want to let all the wonderful people who get in touch with our show and contribute to the wider SLP community down, who've sent in loads of messages this week and for this show. So I'm recording it solo and it may get a bit boring, just my voice. But you're also probably going to get less opinion from me because there's no one to bounce off. So we will just start, as normal, with the feedback and shout-outs. And I want to open up by thanking everyone who got in touch with mentions or messages of congratulations on Twitter and Facebook and the like for our 150th episode last week. So in sort of alphabetical order, I'm going to start with Aidan, at Aidan Stalker, if you want to follow him on Twitter, Alan Walker, at Alan Paul Walker, Andy Barden, at Brit_Renegade, Barry McDermott, at RL Barry Mc10, if you've never heard of him before, Bob Phillips, at Dr. Bob Phillips, Brian Davies, at Brian Davies 12, Chris McEwen, at Chris McEwen 80, Cutthroat Jake, at cut_throat_Jake, Darts, at Mitchell Darts, Devil in the Detail, at DITDSRD, at Wally Frogmore, whatever he's calling himself at the moment, Elliot, at Elliot_Wrench, Ian Gatwood, at Gatwood Ian, John Dacuna, who is, I hope I pronounced that right, Dacuna. It's first time getting in touch this week from John, so it was lovely to hear from him. He also wanted us to shout out to his granddad, Jeffrey Ainley, a lifelong Huddersfield Giants fan who sadly passed away last year, but by a sort of strange twist of fate, I suppose. It was after John's granddad passed away that it inadvertently led to John finding our show, so it's nice to have you on board, John, and do keep getting in touch. London Faithful, at London Faithful, Lee Whitnell, at L Whitnell, Mark, at Wilco2205, Mark Butler, which is at Mark Butler 1978, Mike Donnelly, at Mike L Donnelly, Paul Campbell, at Paul Campbell 980, Paul Ludo Lewis, at Ludo Lewis, Paul Michael Craig, at Paul Mac_78, Paul O'Brien, at POB 1976, Rugby League Latest, at RL Latest, Serious About RL, at Serious About RL, Susan Shepherd, who is at Midgecat, The Honourable, at Langers38, more on him shortly, Vicky McQueen, at Vicky McQ, and Wire Joe, at Wire Joe 90, and then also thanks to the many more people out there who've retweeted our posts, shared them on Facebook, liked them on Facebook or on Twitter, all of that. It's very much appreciated. A huge shout out goes to Rich Langley and the dozen or so other listeners who jumped on board to get some sponsorship funds together in the name of the SLP family for Joshua McKenzie's under-8s Mighton side. So, and to be honest, without this, I don't think this show will be going on right now. But Sarah, Joshua's mum, sent us an email to say, could you give a massive thanks to everyone who has contributed to the Mighton Under-8 sponsorship. I was totally blown away by it. I really couldn't believe what started as a throwaway comment by me on Twitter asking if anyone worked for a company who could sponsor them turned into Rich picking up and enlisting the support of the incredible SLP family. I guess it shows the good that can come of social media. I do feel really privileged to have been introduced to the SLP world and love the banter that goes on within that world, and this further shows what a great bunch of people they are. Thanks for that, Sarah, and I echo everything you say, because normally when something happens around SLP, or could happen around SLP, there's lots of things that I duck out on doing these days because I don't have the time. So thankfully Rich stepped up and was so great in coordinating this, and everyone else who got on board. I don't actually have the list, the final list of the people who did contribute, so I'm sorry that I can't name check them all, but a massive thanks to everyone who goes from, you know, Sarah, Joshua, the under 8s, and the whole club, I suppose. So it's brilliant to feel that we've been able to contribute something from the Super League pod family. I'm going to roll through some of the feedback from last week's show. I might miss some of the bits off because there's no point if we can't have a chat about them. So Fatboy Rob said, golf is a game played by fat old men, and I'm only one of those. Now, beer golf is something I could sign on to. I don't think we've talked about beer golf. We've talked about rugby golf, but there you go. Beer might make it all a lot more fun. Colin Render said, innuendo of the week, Watkins had already beaten off a couple of players, so Sow had to go in hard on him. Yeah, that was half intentional, so I don't know if that was picked up at the time. Alan Walker said, Dragons versus Toulouse ain't no derby like Hull v Saints ain't. So I think it was Tom who said it was a derby. So in the realms of the two French teams in the English competition, you know, let's not pull too many hairs there, Alan, on that. Sarah said, trying to decide what to bake whilst listening to this week's episode, flapjack or cookies maybe. So if anyone wants to tell her what they want, I mean, I think she owes us some, doesn't she? So we need to get an SLP bake-off sorted out there. Dave Cantrell said, listening to Super League Pod on the way to Sadler's Wells to watch muscular young men rive on the stage for my enjoyment. I don't want to boggle the mind on that one, so I'll leave that there. Paul O'Brien said, sat with a coffee watching the world go by and listening to Super League Pod. David Powell said, now then lads, as a newbie I am starting to panic what happens in the off season. Do you guys take a break? #say no. Well, traditionally what has previously happened is we've picked up through the internationals on a every other week basis, and then we've done a Christmas show. I can't tell you what will happen this year at the moment, as I'm sat here recording this show. So we will see. And then he also says, great rant on refs, chaps, well said. I get upset when my team loses too, but we need the referees. And more on the referees, a bit of a longer topic here, comes from Sarah McKenzie, this time by email again. She said, I've been doing a lot of thinking about referees this weekend. Robert Hicks was pretty abysmal on Friday, and I think Chris Kendall generally is out of his depth. I try not to get drawn into referee bashing, but I began thinking about what the underlying problems are. I think there are a few main issues. Number one, social media. We live in a world where we can instantly pull our phone out of our pocket during a match and send some abusive, derogatory tweet about the performance of the ref and see others who are saying the same thing, thereby reinforcing our opinions. Number two, TV coverage. Every decision is analysed to death by the commentators and re-shown time and time again, so that by the end of a match that we might have been watching on TV, we will have seen that contentious knock-on, which was giving us a ball steal 10 times, and we will remember it for a while to come. Then three, the quantity of referees. There have been reports of internal bullying amongst the referees, resulting in some leaving. Others haven't specified why they have left, but over the last 2-3 years we have had a good number of referees with some experience leaving. This means we are really down to the bare bones, and referees are having to take charge of more matches than they possibly should be, and they are not coping with it. Whereas a few years ago a referee such as Kendall would be predominantly reffing in the lower divisions, with maybe some fourth official or touch judge roles in the Super League. He is now having to referee at least one Super League game a week, and on some occasions officiate other matches at Super League level. The outcome of all of this is that they aren't going to be as sharp as they could be. The RFL isn't protecting the men in the middle. I don't know how we solve this problem, but I do think that all parties need to take a look at themselves. Yeah, I think it does need an across-the-board approach. My experience at Swinton today was that both the Swinton and Dewsbury fans were both bemoaning the decision-making of the referee, Gareth Hewer, and me stood between as a neutral. Actually thought he had a pretty good game, made no real clangers, and was reffing both sides the same way in terms of how he policed the ruck, how he policed the onside, offside, and that sort of thing. And the only times where contentious calls had to be made were where the players took it out of his hands by dropping to the floor or letting go of the ball or what have you. Something that we saw a lot in the Wigan against Warrington game on Thursday night. So yeah, everyone has a role to play, certainly. And then Sarah finishes with a question for everyone. Do you have any matchday superstitions? At the Saints match, a guy near us wouldn't move from where he had been stood when we scored our first try, as it would be unlucky, even though he was getting very wet in the rain. When Danny Tickle kicked for us, I used to have to say, "Go on, Danny," an odd number of times. No, I'm not really the superstitious type myself. My cousin Jamie used to... well, actually, it started with a chap who sat... a lad and his dad who sat behind us at the JJB, as it was. And then my cousin Jamie, who was young at the time as well, picked it up as well, which was to say meat pie, sausage roll, whoever the kicker's name is, give us a goal. And yeah, he reprised that at the Warrington Cup quarter-final, and maybe it was the difference between George Williams kicking up to that point and George Williams kicking that day and beyond. We will never know, I suppose, although I suspect that it wasn't a major factor. That's it for the feedback and shout-outs. Like I say, it's probably going to be quite quick on everything today with only one voice, and I'm sorry if it's coming across very boring and monotonous, but we will slide on now to find out what's been happening in the news in rugby league this week. So, news from around the world of rugby league, and we start with Captain Danny Maguire will leave the Leeds Rhinos at the end of this season after 15 years with the club. The England and Great Britain halfback, who's 34, is the leading try scorer in Super League history with 233 and fourth on Leeds' all-time list. Since making his debut as a teenager in 2002, Maguire has scored... that would mean it's 16 seasons, wasn't it, rather than 15? Maguire has scored 262 tries in all competitions in more than 400 appearances. He helped the Rhinos to 7 Super League Grand Final victories, 3 World Club Challenge titles and 2 Challenge Cup wins. So quite an impressive record that he leaves there. And he's not quite finished yet, of course. He said, "I've got some brilliant memories, but it's time for myself and the club to move on. I've got a good idea of what I want to do and where I want to be next year, but nothing has been finalised. My body feels really good. I feel like I'm still playing well. You're a long time retired, so I will play on next year. The club's got to look at the next generation and start planning for the future. I loved my time at the club ever since I signed my first contract in December 1995. I remember it like it was yesterday." Loads of people got in touch, unsurprisingly, about this one. We sort of went out there asking for comments, and we weren't disappointed. I wasn't disappointed, should I say. Colin Render said he will be missed, having had a great career. He has only shown flashes of what he used to do week in, week out. Let's hope he can end on a high. Dr. Bob Phillips said, "Maguire has been an excellent servant to the club, and going out on a good season is a mature decision. We have depth in the halves, not a statement I thought I would be making at the end of last year. We'll hear about Burrow's retirement next week, I guess." Neil McEwen said, "Maguire should have got another deal." Simple as that from Neil. John Scotter, at John Scotter 15, said, "Maguire is my equivalent to Mark's Ryan Atkins. Hope he goes to Hull KR to enable me to dislike him twice." Mitchell Darts, who's a Leeds fan from down under, said, "With Lily and Myler locked in, it was the best time for both. He has been a tremendous player for the club, led the club wonderfully this season. Will definitely be weird, though, seeing him in different colours next year." And Rich Langley said, "Maguire will do a job for someone. Surprised he's looking to stay in Super League, though. Playing against Leeds will be a strange one for him." We move on to slightly more maybe surprising news, but we'll see how this one pans out. It's Warrington forward Andre Savelio moving to the NRL after agreeing to join Brisbane Broncos from the 2018 season. The 22-year-old has signed a 2-year contract to play under England coach Wayne Bennett in Queensland. Neil McEwen said, "Rumoured to have a bad attitude, so can't see him making it. Could become a top player. Was hoping Widnes would sign him after it emerged he was unwanted at Wire. Dart said, hope Savelio does well out here. Media all